Hi everybody, my name is Marcos, Marcos Casiano, and I'm here to tell you about some of my tales from the road, my adventures of traveling the highways and byways in the US and Canada. And so this next story actually is now going to take place in Canada. I think in the my last little story, we had done a gig in New Jersey. We went up to New York. We had a great time. And so now we're going to leave because we're going to go to Canada for 2 weeks. And on the last night at this club that we're playing at in New Jersey, I had kind of befriended this DJ from Philadelphia. And he had been coming in the club, not every night, but whenever I'd see him, I'd talk to him. But the last night we were playing, I remember, I think it was a Sunday night we were playing. He came in there and he said, where are you guys going to next? And I said, we're going to Chatham, Canada. And he says, really? I go, yeah, we're going to leave in the morning. And he goes, leave in the morning? He goes, yeah. He says, you better leave maybe tonight. He said, he said it's about a 24-hour drive up there. It's longer than you think, because I remember when we had looked at the map discussing when to leave, it didn't look like it was that far, like maybe just 16 hours, but he advised us that it's further because he had been up there before. And so, we took his advice. And when we got done playing, the usual, by the time you get done playing and pack up, it's about 3:30 in the morning. So we decided to take this guy's advice. I don't remember his name. This is, years ago. So we drive, we get up into Canada, get into the border. We go through, well, I remember going across the George Washington Bridge, I don't know, something like, 5 in the morning or something like that. And we go through all those little states in New England, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut. It takes like 5 minutes to go through those. Go through Maine. I remember it was like early in the morning in Maine now, and we have breakfast at like a truck stop before we go into in Canada. And so I remember before we made this trip, we double checked with our agent to make sure, do we need our passports to go to Canada? And he goes, no, you don't need a passport. You're from the U.S., you don't need a passport to go to the U.S. Okay, fine. So we stop at the border, and the only thing that we did at the border was the guitar player, Sandy, he had one of those little tasers, I guess you call it. And he was like maybe scared to take it in because you can't take firearms into Canada. And so he thought, well, maybe I should just leave this at the border. So when we check in, I think we filled in some paperwork. He left the taser with the custom agents, and they wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I guess they put it up. So we play into Canada, and the first stop again, like I said, was Chatham. It was an interesting place. It's a nice little town. I think only about 6,000 people. And I remember at night, whenever we got done playing, we played about 1:30. You start hearing this clink, like beer cans and glasses banging on the table, and you'd hear one, you'd hear two. And then the whole club would be, pounding their glasses and their beer cans on the table. And what that meant was they wanted an encore. Okay, we figured that out. And so what would happen was we had two girl singers at this time that fronted the group. So each girl would do a song, which took about 10 more minutes. So now we've played like, 10 minutes over. And I remember we were like really tired, but every night we do the encore. So one night I told Sandy, I said why don't we break it like 20 after 1, so when they start the clanking and everything, we'll do our encore, and it's 1:30, and then we're done, because 10 minutes doesn't sound like a lot when you're playing 5 sets a night, and they're like 45 minutes. It's tiring, because again, this band was kind of a high energy, like country band, so we put a lot of effort into what we did. We just weren't there just, we played hard every night, and I think it showed, because some of the people in the audience, would make reference of that. So I think we started doing that towards the end. It worked out good. We started hearing the clanking on the table one by one. Before you know it, the whole bar is just banging their glasses and everything on the table. We do our encore. Everybody's happy. It was great. It was a fun gig. We move on to the next gig in Canada. Very uneventful, thank God. And in a place called Moncton. Moncton was a little bigger. I'm thinking Moncton may have been like 50,000 people or maybe a little bit bigger. The only thing I remember funny about this gig was they had a cover charge every night. But unlike the US where the cover charge is like $3, 5 or whatever cover charge, it's an even number. At this club, what I thought was funny was the cover charge would be like $7.42. Okay, the next night it would be like $9.27. And I always thought that was strange. That was a little comical. The other thing about this gig, and it was a pretty decent club, I remember, was they had a band house, just like had a band house in New Jersey. This one was a little nicer, but it's on top of the club. So at about 11 in the morning, they would open and they would start playing music. So that was kind of like my wake-up call. Okay, it's 11 o'clock, they're playing music. It's time to get up. And the reason for this, a lot of people don't know, is that they have to stock the bar and they have to clean it. So I guess they figured if we have to clean the bar and stock it, we might as well just open for business. This is what a lot of them do. Usually there's just a bartender there. There's no waitresses, and people will just sit at the bar, the people that would come in. And they clean it, and you'll see the beer truck outside every day. The beer truck will come and restock the bar. So that was the only funny thing about it. It wasn't, like I said, a bad band house, but 11 o'clock, okay, it's time to get up. Okay, we're done. We're leaving Moncton, and we're headed to the border of the U.S. to our next gig in Bangor, Maine. And so when we get to the border to check in, because Sandy wanted to get his little taser back, the customs agent is checking us all out. He's making sure, okay, you're such and such. And then they came to me, and they go, Marcos, yeah, that's me. It says here that you were born in France. I go, yeah, that's true. Oh, where's your passport? Passport? I said, our agent said we didn't need a passport. He goes, well, but you weren't born in the U.S., so you're going to have a passport. And so he's kind of like giving me the third degree, because we're not in our van. We're inside the customs agent little office. And he's kind of like not really grilling me really hard, but I remember he says, and what proof do you have if you don't have your passport that you're an American citizen? I go, my accent. Oh, and he thought that was actually pretty funny, but he said that's a nice try, but he says, no, we need some more proof that you're an American citizen. So finally he walks out of the room, and I'm thinking, oh, what's going to happen? They can't leave me here in Canada. I'm not a Canadian citizen, but I am an American. For some reason, my driver's license was not good enough. So he leaves, and another guy comes. I think there was a shift change because it's early in the morning. The next guy comes, and he was, and again, these guys weren't rude or anything. So he comes and says, you can go, you're free to go. He says, but remember, he says, the next time, take your passport, because your passport is the best proof that you're an American citizen. And I said, okay. So we had to inform our agent that, you do need a passport to go to Canada, especially if you're not born in the U.S. And I think after this, when I got back to the U.S., when I got back home, I think I ended up getting a passport, because I hadn't had a passport in a long time. So this was my way of getting a new passport. I took his advice, I got a passport, and I've had a passport ever since. Okay, more later.